Bonjour, Rog fans, and today's Rog Rant is about money. Why is it that our currencies are worthless? Did we even know that? Well, looking at the old English currency, which is traditionally referred to as Great British Pound Sterling, before the 40s, all English coinage and American coinage was backed by actual gold or silver. It contained gold or silver in it. Even the notes would have little strips of silver, so they all had an intrinsic value. You could actually go and take them somewhere, have them melted, and get the actual physical metal, the gold, the silver, which has value, and you could exchange it or sell it if you wanted to. That was what was meant by a precious metal-backed currency, and pound sterling was, so was the American dollar. Around about the time of the Depression, the Americans decided mysteriously they suddenly wanted their currency not to be backed by anything of value, to have no value at all. And then in the 40s, I think it was, here in the UK, they did the same thing. Why would you want a currency that has no value? Well, there are some benefits. Number one, you can have inflation. Inflation is something that government invents every year. They sit around with a bunch of other rich people who are making money and backhanders out of our money and decide how much things are going to cost. Has it ever concerned you why it is that computers keep increasing in price, but the actual cost of manufacturing is actually lowering? Isn't that a bit strange? Also, the other thing you can have with a worthless currency, otherwise known as a fiat currency, F-I-A-T, a fiat currency, a currency that has no intrinsic value, you can have currency devaluations. If everyone's currency is backed by gold or silver, there are no currency valuation changes because the intrinsic precious metal that backs all of the deposits in all the banks and all the governments and all the businesses and all the people's bank accounts has value. So you have no poverty. Poverty is very difficult to have if the pound coin or the dollar or the cent in your hand actually contains a percentage of gold or silver that is equal to the value of that at the front, because it may say a pound and it may have a pound's worth of gold in it, but if the price of gold increases, you can sell your pounds as scrap metal and gold and make loads of cash. That's why it's a great idea. Why did the government suddenly get rid of it? Because now we can have poverty, now we can have inflation, now we can have constant tax hikes. Now, because fiat currency is essentially worthless, the more you print and produce, the less value it has. So you can have hyperinflation and all sorts of nonsense. But here's a question that is not taught in schools, it's never answered, and children aren't encouraged to ask. Where does money come from? Well, the ROG is assisted today by a brilliant book, the Financial Times Guide to Banking. I suggest you buy this. Actually, there's an ISBN number on the back. Oh, yes. I'll hold it there so you can write that down, because at this moment in time, the ROG's technical abilities have not got him to the world of video editing. So things are a little bit rough. But there we are. Unlike those people who've got YouTube channels with thousands of subscribers who are making literally thousands of pounds a month, have incredible displays of captions and widdly-doo-dah things. And I wonder how many of those people donate a portion of that money to food banks and charities. Moving on, back to money. Now, page 12. Yes, it says under the section, money creation. I shall read this exactly as it is, so please bear with me with my crap diction, but here we shall go. Money creation. Now we can move to another stage. We can actually create money. The borrowers of the money from goldsmiths were usually content to take a piece of paper, call it a banknote, instead of taking coins out of the bank. Makes sense. They could then use that, turn the page, as currency to buy things. The goldsmiths could just create these pieces of paper off their own bat, which means invent them. Thus, a goldsmith bank might have a total of, say, 1,000 deposits. In other words, they've got £1,000 worth of gold in the bank. They can hand out £500 of the coin as loans and issue another 5,000 or 6,000 of new paper money to borrowers. But they've only got 1,000 in the bank. Interesting. You can see the obvious danger here. Depositors might all come at the same time and demand their money. They want £1,000 back when there's only £500 in the vault. Illiquidity. Whoops, RBS, another name for that. But what are the chances of a high proportion of depositors wanting cash back at the same time? Exactly. Great fraud, isn't it? Minuscule, thought the bankers, and so they carried on lending beyond their deposit base. And this is what bankers do today. They create money out of thin air. Literal quote. Just as long as there is a deposit base on which to build. Initially, there is only £100 in the example given, but after 7 actions, there is 100 plus 80 plus 64 plus £51.20 equals £295.20 in the economy, even though there's only £100 deposited in the bank. That's how the monetary system works, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's fraud. They're lending money that doesn't exist. They're inventing it. Buy the book. Buy the book and read for yourself. Incredible. That's why we have no money. That's why everything's worthless. How about that? It's all a scam. It's all a scam. And there it is in black and white. That our monetary system is a total farce. It's not backed by any precious metal, so it has no intrinsic value. And the banks are willingly and legally, governments allow this, lending more money than they actually have and then charging interest on it. How is that not fraud? Incredible. Incredible. Now, if we, the people, took back control of our countries, we would have precious metal-backed currencies again, which means that the level of poverty in our countries would diminish exponentially because suddenly everything has value. Yeah. You haven't got to go and think, oh no, I've got to go and sell the old tea set my grandma had because I haven't got any money. You just think, well, hold on. This pound coin has got £1's worth of gold in it or £1's worth of silver in it. Oh, I could just sell that as scrap because I'm going to get £1. Your money is always worth something. That's the bottom line. Your penny's always got a penny of gold or a penny of silver in it. Your 5p got a 5p. Your dime's got the equivalent in gold or silver. That's where we've been screwed. We've allowed them to take away the value from our money. So that's why we see that everything keeps increasing in value all the time. Everything gets more expensive, but it's cheaper to make because they put more and more fiat currency into the equation to cover their, because they're lending more of money that doesn't exist, creates more fiat currency which has no value, and so it gets higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, and the more of it is, the less there is, the less value it has, because it is not backed by anything of value, so everything becomes worthless. Here's a good example for you. If you were going to a chip shop today in the UK with a £10 note, which incidentally is not really currency, it's actually a promissory note because it says I promise to pay the bearer on demand. It's worthless, it has no value because it's not backed by any precious metal, it's just an IOU. With that £10 note, you might be able to get, say, fish and chips and mushy peas, and you might have £1.20 change. Depending where you are in the country, some places you might get £2. You go back 5 years, and you could get sausage and chips with a curry twice with 1 curry sauce. You go back another 5 years, you can get fish and chips twice with a large curry sauce with 2 drinks. The same £10 note. It continually devalues. That's why savings are pointless, because you're saving a currency that has no value that constantly devalues. The best thing to do, which none of us really can because we're not allowed to have any money because we're in a wage slavery system, is to invest in something that has a value. Precious metals, gold and silver. Even antiques have value. That's what we got to do. Stop putting money into these banks that literally just take it from us and loan it to us and loan it back to us with interest when they haven't actually got enough to cover it. They take our money and lend it. They spend it. You put £50 in the bank, they spend that straight away. Where do you think all their holidays come from and their flash cars and their big buildings come from? They buy land, they buy buildings, they buy businesses, they invest in other countries and shares with our money because it's worthless. Then they lend that money more twice, sometimes using fractional lending, which of course is mentioned quite a lot in this book, back to us for extraordinary amounts of interest, which we don't pay back. They come and collect physical goods to the value of because that's what they're interested in. They're not interested in your money. They're interested in your land, in your possessions, anything that has equity, that has value, because the money has no value. That's why they create recessions, to get land and to get businesses, which they then sell to companies like supermarket companies. Yeah, they'll destroy the economy in a particular area, create a recession, buy all the land, claim all the land back because the companies and the people living there can't pay the mortgages plus the interest on debts that technically don't exist because they're based on a fraud, on fraudulent lending. And then what the banks do? The banks keep the houses, and then when the banks start lending money again and grow the economy back, they then sell the buildings and then sell the land to the supermarket places, and the supermarket places start putting supermarkets everywhere. The supermarket people don't need to borrow any money, but they borrow it from the bank as a kindness to say thank you. They usually don't have to pay interest on the loan, and then it all comes back, isn't it? It's all a scam. Anyhow, comments down below. What do you think? Is our currency worth? Is anybody's currency worth anything? Is there any value in saving the damn stuff? Have we really all been screwed and lied to? Until next time, ROG fans. Remember, it's not reality. YouTube.